All right, Pickle, a lot to get to because I was out yesterday, so we crack my knuckles real quick.
Y'all warmed up,
Pickle,
ready to go.
hit the arrow time. Time for Monday Morning Fallout. Monday Morning Fallout. Of course, when we overreact to the football weekend, quite a bit to overreact to. Some that we will get to in other segments, though. So if there's one story that we don't get to, it's because we have a whole segment for it. But we do have Monday Morning Fallout. And here we will start with my three big thoughts. Thought number one, new year, same powers. We're down to the state semifinals.
As in Greg Powers.
We're
He's still our mountain.
We're starting still our mountain. We're into the state semifinals of the Texas High School Ball 6A and 5A playoffs, which means that there are 16 teams left. 16 teams. And I go back to the state championship games that we had for 4A and below. And I look at, and I think one of the things that was remarkable about it was you had a number of teams making their first ever state championship appearance, right? Lindale making their first state championship appearance. Hallettsville making their first state championship appearance. Windthorst making their, no, they weren't. They were making their, another one. But like you had other ones that were making their first state championship appearance. We are still, have one more round to go. And yet, and I think this is telling of the difference between 6A and 5A and maybe the smaller classifications, where there's maybe a little bit more parity there.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 16 teams that are in the state semifinals, 13 have played in a state championship. Yep. 13 of them. Mm-hmm. The only ones that haven't would be Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial. They're in their 5th year of existence, so I think they get a little bit of a pass. Wichita Falls Ryder has never made a state championship game. And then the other one was, let me see if I can make sure, see if I can think, Mansfield Summit, a relatively new program in the DFW Metroplex, right? That's it. That's the whole list. Every other team has made it. And I think that what you're seeing, and especially when you take a look at these state semifinal matchups, right, it is a lot of brand names.
Oh, yeah.
It is a lot of big-time powers, right? It's South Lake Carroll. It's Duncanville. It's Katy. It's North Shore. It's Westlake. It's Geyer. It's Cedar Hill. It's Katy.
Ryan.
You know, it's Ryan, right? It's Cedar Park. It's Aledo, right? Those are brand names. That, to me, and we'll get into this in the offseason when we have a lot of time to kill, that, to me, speaks to maybe the difference between 6A, 5A, and 4A and below. I think that there is a larger gap between the quote-unquote contenders and the not. And I think that is showing out here as we get here, that even though we're now into the new year, which is strange, by the way, we're into week 20 of the Texas high school football season. Because of that, but when you take a look at these, it's just really interesting to see those same names pop up there. And yeah, there's some teams we haven't there. But, like, for example, like I think in a big way, to get into the 6A ranks, for example, I think there's a fair argument to be made that this is a really chalky year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All of our preseason top 5 are still alive. All of them. 6 of the top 7 are still alive. Right? There was only one team of the 16 that started the year unranked, and that was Buda Hayes. That's it. Like, every other team started the year ranked in 6A and 5A. So, to me, when you take a look at the 6A and 5A landscape, a lot of it has to do with pedigree. A lot of it has to do with the same powers and the same brand names that we've come to know.
Well, and I think a big thing, my dad and I were actually talking about that the other day. I think what you get into there is the fact that when you go down into those smaller classification ranks, you can have a Jonathan Brooks that is just, or a Doug Brooks that is single-handedly enough to get them to state because they're just a lifetime talent.
Yes.
And you don't get that in 6 and 5A. There are very obvious, I mean, like, you look at Jatavian Sanders and go, you know he's a heck of a player.
Yes.
But if that's all they had, would they be the same tenured program that they are?
Right. So, there you go. That is thought number one. Thought number two, Orange Crush. It's going to get lost because of what happened in Austin. And we'll get to that in its own segment later in the show. It's going to get lost, but
Texas beat Kansas.
What Texas A&M, did in the Orange Bowl was, I think, really important for the program trajectory, because they were down in this game. Okay, they were down to North Carolina, and it started looking, boy howdy, are they going to spit this thing up? and lose to a team that is not only are they better than, but is also missing a key number of their key players.
Mm-hmm.
But they came through late, and I think that that's a really important win for the trajectory of the program. That if you believe that this was year 3 for Jimbo Fisher, if you believe that year 4 is going to be the leap year, you probably need to cap off the year before with a big win and go into 2021 with some momentum. If you believe in that kind of thing, I tend to think that will, and what they had, especially with a lot of the young guys who are stepping up, I think that was something that for me really stood out. Is you now have a program that is very clearly trending up. They're going to. I'll tell you this right now. They're going to start the year in the top 5 next year, and as a result, they have set themselves up. College football is the dumbest sport in the world, but they have, because of what they did in 2020. Even though there will be roster changes, even though there will be new things and blah, 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 and maybe Mike Elko gets a head coaching job, blah, 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 all that fun stuff, because of what they did in 2020, that will allow them to contend for a national championship in 2021. And as a result, I think that was a really important win they got in the Orange Bowl to kind of keep that trajectory and make sure that they are going to start the year in a position that they can contend next year for a title.
I think it shows, too, that those young guys have really bought into the culture that Jimbo has put in there, just because they could easily have said, we're missing our guys, we're just going to throw this one away, it's whatever, we'll bounce back next year. But the fact that they went out there and came back to win, it was like, okay, he's got him fired up.
Right. And thought number 3, the cruelest round again. And I say this every time this rolls around, but it's just worth remembering that this is the worst round of the playoffs.
Absolutely.
This is the worst round of the playoffs because you have 16 teams that all want to make it to AT&T Stadium. You have 16 teams that all want to play on the big stage on national television. They want to play for it all. They want to have an opportunity. And even if you lose in the state championship game, you are remembered forever. You will remember, like we will always remember Lindale making it to a state championship, right? They did not win that game, and there were times where it didn't look like they were going to come particularly close, right?
We'll remember Gilmer
we'll remember Gilmer making it to a title game. But I have already forgotten who Gilmer beat in the semifinal.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's sad because I should remember that. But that is what's at stake now. This is a spot where you can etch your name into Texas high school football history, and losing here is the worst time. So a lot of pressure on these teams going forward into the state semifinals. 3 helmet stickers. Helmet sticker to the whole stinking Liberty Hill offense.
Goodness gracious!
So if you missed the the most amazing score, like box score of all time, and an incredible game, you were there. Sherilyn Pioneer versus Liberty Hill. Liberty Hill, who runs the slot T, I should remind you. Liberty Hill runs for 717 yards.
It was crazy.
And throws for 0 in a 56-53 win for Sherilyn Pioneer.
They had one pass attempt, and we all watched it and went, don't try to throw it again. Yeah. Just stop.
It was Liberty Hill, the offense was churning, and I made the comparison on Twitter that they basically run the slot T with the same explosiveness as an air raid.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, like, ridiculous that, like, they're just getting these huge chunk plays, and you have to defend the whole field out of the slot T, which doesn't make any sense.
No. Yeah, it's not a 3-yard gain every time. It was a one play and then an 82-yard touchdown.
A helmet sticker for Texas running back Bijan Robinson. Okay? This guy because we haven't talked about the Alamo Bowl. This guy, they finally start giving him the ball, and good things happen. He carries 10 times for 183 yards and a touchdown. He also catches 2 passes for 37 yards and 2 scores to really fuel Texas's big win over Colorado. And with that, they rewarded their coach by showing him the door. But a helmet sticker for Bijan Robinson, the running back of Texas.
Way to bring down the mood there, bud.
And a helmet sticker for Southlake Carroll quarterback Quinn Ewers, who was razor sharp in their win over Euless Trinity. He went 35 of 39 for 450 yards and 6 touchdowns, absolutely torching the Trinity secondary in a big win. He hit Brady Boyd, I think, like 18 times in that game. It was absurd, but Quinn Ewers is back in POG form, and he looks very good. Southlake Carroll quarterback Quinn Ewers gets a helmet sticker. 3 to C, we're done with college football, at least for the moment. We're going to see if we get some small college football in the spring. But for now, 3 to C. This will probably be the last Monday Morning Fall of the year.
Yeah, and it's a Tuesday afternoon fall. Because we're very on brand on this show.
Galena Park North Shore versus Austin West, like 2 o'clock Saturday at Legacy Stadium in Katy. This is, to me, this is with all due respect to the other 7 games, this is the main event.
Mm-hmm.
This is the big game. And to see what happens when that North Shore offense goes up against that Westlake defense is going to be worth the price of admission. North Shore and Westlake is a bona fide banger. That is one to see. Also, Friday, 7:30 p.m. at the Rock Pile in Alamo, in the Alamo City at Alamo Stadium. Cedar Park takes on Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial. Great matchup of quarterbacks in this one with Carter Centerfit taking on Ryder Hernandez. Really excited to see if the Black Rain defense can bounce back after kind of getting touched up by Manville. We're going to see what happens. I mentioned this. We recorded the picks video earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be like the best team that Veterans Memorial has seen by a pretty considerable margin.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do they handle that?
This is the first time a Corpus Christi school not named Cal Allen has made it to the state semis since 1963.
How about that?
That's history.
And finally, Denton Geyer versus Cedar Hill. This is 1 o'clock Saturday at McKinney ISD Stadium. All eyes are going to be on the quarterbacks here. You got a Tennessee signee in Caden Salter. You got a A&M signee in Eli Stowers. Great quarterback matchup in this one. My question is going to be, can they, which supporting cast can step up? And of course, this is a rematch of that wild game they had in the area around last year, in which Cedar Hill was up 41-14 late in the third quarter, and then Denton Geyer rattled off 36 straight to win. So yes, very excited for that. That is 3 to see. That is Monday Morning Fallout.